Welcome back, everybody. This is the continuation of how to write cursive. So, if we have your paper, pick your writing utensil of choice. I think I'm going to go with this double-sided pen here. And to keep it somewhat knife-related on this channel, we're going to be using some descriptions out of this magazine from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Not sponsored, not necessarily promoting them, but this is good general material for just picking out some series of words, a description, or something. Let's pick something out and we'll get right into it. So, something that's not too long for you guys. Here's a good one. We're going to be going into the sharpener section here. Edge Pro Compact Electric Sharpener. I don't know if you can read that on your screen. I hope you can. Synthetic wheel provides quick and easy electric sharpening. We're just going to go with that one sentence right there. And we'll see how that comes out. Now, if you remember in last video that I did of this, I showed you how to write the letters, but I didn't show you how to necessarily connect the letters. I do apologize for the camera wobbling. My camera rig is not the sturdiest thing in the world. But the uppercase letters are not necessarily supposed to connect to the lowercase. If they happen to have a little swoopy-doo at the bottom, very technical terminology here on this channel. If they do happen to have a swoopy-doo at the bottom, you can connect, but they are kind of meant to be a standalone capital letter that just draws attention. So, we'll get into it. Again, for this video, I am going to be cheating a little bit and using 2 rows of lines instead of just the 1 row, so that you can kind of see a little bit more clearly what's going on. So, starting off with our first word, synthetic. That's going to be a capital S. Now, if you're new to cursive, you'll need a reference sheet nearby to help you remember what the letters are. I've got mine on standby. I know how to write cursive. If I had to shoot it, just boom, 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 I could before the lesson. And to make sure that I don't mess up too much, I do have a reference sheet. Even the good guys need reference sheets. So, capital S. And this one is not going to have a connector for the following letters. So, S. We start at the bottom, up to the top, back and over. Up next, we have a lowercase y. So we got synthetic. I'm going to write the whole word out, and then I'll go back over it to show you how you write it. Hope you guys can see my pen and such. It is okay to stop and scoot your hand if the word is too long. Now, I have written out most of the word. You'll notice the I's and the T's are not completed. So, we go over to our T's, cross your T's, dot your I's, and what I did, you saw the S. I tried to keep the lowercase close to the uppercase so that you know that they're connected to the word. Go down, or start at the bottom, up, down, swoop around, up almost to the top, down, back up, curve back down, up, down, swoop down, arch, swoop, up, down, up, and around. You kind of see how that was going there. I'm not the best with describing every motion of cursive. I do apologize for that. But I hope that you can, by watching this video, you can, follow what I'm doing here and complete your task of learning cursive. Next word is wheel, starting off with a W. lowercase w. We've now got the capital out of the way. Everything else can be lowercase. Up, swoop, double E's, wheel, provides. Now that one's going to be too long for that, so we'll just scooch down over here. Provides. Go back. Pro-vi. Dot your I. Quick. Now here's where I usually mess up is the Q's. I end up doing my Q's like a G. Got to keep your eyes on those. Start at the bottom, up. Instead of going forward like a G, you go backwards, around. Do your U, do your I, do your C, K. And to remember what the K is, you come down, up, back, and over. Go back, connect your eyes. And we can squeeze in over here. When I've completed the sentence, I'll go back and highlight certain parts of how things were done and hope I can clear some stuff up. If you have questions, comment below and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Provides quick and easy. Easy is the next word. Electric. This is a lot of swoopies at the start. Go back. Dot your I's, cross your T's. You maybe have heard that old saying, dot your I's and cross your T's. Sharpening. This will be a fun one. This is a long word. And remember to keep your paper. Now, I'm maybe over exaggerating. If I keep my arms straight out from where they are, I am facing that direction. So I have the paper at almost a 45-degree angle to me. You may want to have it more. You may want to have it less. The point of cursive is to take the letters and have them tip forward. And the easiest way of doing that is to turn the paper. Sharpening. Last word here. Very fun word. Dot your I's. No T's need to be crossed. Period at the end of your sentence. Synthetic wheel provides quick and easy electric sharpening. So, as you all know, as I've said before, the start of a sentence requires a capital letter. Not all capital letters can be connected to the lowercase. So in this case, starting off with an S, we had to have a little bit of a space. But hopefully that space isn't very much. You try to keep those together close enough so that you know that's a word, not S and then synthetic. Although, it should make sense that those are together, but try to keep those semi-close together. And almost all the letters have a swoop at the bottom. And so most of these letters can be connected fairly easy. Like the E's here, you're coming off of that E. Let me swap tips here. Let's ignore the lines on the paper for a moment. I'll try to write bigger. E. You come off that bottom there. And when you're writing just the solo letter, you don't come up very high. But if you're doing ER, you bring it up to start the next letter, finish that letter, and try to end with an upward swoop. So that way all the letters can be connected. Now I know this is basically just a row of E's, but that is kind of how cursive is meant to flow. Once you start, you keep going. T's. You try to connect it all. You just use your head as to where that fits the best. Some doesn't fit that well. Some do, some don't. Let's just rip that out. And for letters like V and W, you have that notch there high up. You write the letter, you come off there at that top, and you're just going up. Well, when you're doing that, and you got to do like an H, it is absolutely fine to start high and finish off the word. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't. You don't have to, with a W. You should not bring that down lower to make the H look a different way, because now you won't be able to tell if that's a U and an I together, or a U and an I and a V, or an I and a U. You've got to write with those little notches there at the end at those specific levels, so that when you're writing, you can tell what letter it is that you're dealing with. And it is very hard to write the whole word of any that's more than 4 letters long without having to stop your hand and reposition. If this was a weighted piece of paper, you can maybe hold your hand up and it barely touch the paper and just glide across. But usually when you see me write, I plant my hand, I write as far over as I can, scooch over, and continue. That's going to be most of your all's cases. That's absolutely fine. Cursive is intended to be, write the whole word, one swoop without having to stop and reposition, like just have your hand glide over the paper. But that's hard to do. And that's absolutely fine. You work the best with what you got. Of course, as you saw earlier, the words themselves were separated. We do not want the words to be connected. We want the words to have a space, just like when you print. Capital letters, let's go back. Let me see here. Let's do capital A for and. Like you're starting off the sentence with the word and. Here we go. We start up high, come up, down. Now we do our in. See? Some letters you can do that. That's some capital letters that you can do that. That's fine. Don't feel bad though if you got to do let's do the word dapper. If you do the D the way it is supposed to be done, like so, you don't have that. That doesn't always work. Now, you may catch me going on the D a few different ways, but that is how I normally write it when I don't think about it too hard. But you can see here, this is a word that does connect. This is a word that does not connect, and that's absolutely fine. I'm re-emphasizing this a lot because this is probably going to hold some of you people up a little bit. It's fine to not connect in cursive. There are times when that doesn't work. You roll with it. You make it look as much of a one word as possible. Just go with it. Don't think about it too hard. Just roll with it. Let me do dapper. I'm going to write the word dapper all lowercase. Try not to think about it, and we'll see how I flourish with that word. Again, I'm going to be trying to do 2 lines. dapper. Now, if you're going to be writing another word nearby, try to cut down on over swooping. But you see how I kind of scooched a little bit? It gets a little sloppy. That's to be expected. But as you write, you're going to be like, let's do D. Let's write the letter D, lowercase d, several different ways here. Make sure your paper is turned. Pick out 2 rows to work with. The proper way to do a D is that. That's how most people will show it to you. Now, you can have a little bit more swoopage, a lot of swoopage, a very narrow head. Now, if you're starting to tip this way with your words, you need to stop. Now I just messed up the P. I wrote too fast, I didn't think about it. Because remember, cursive letters are supposed to be pointing that way. You got to roll with the flourishes a little bit. Let's do capital J, since that's the first letter of my name. Pick out your rows. A proper J looks something like that. You'll see some people do a narrower bottom. You'll see some people do a narrower top and a wider bottom. That's all in that person's preference of how their hand writes. You can have really big, really small, like that. That's absolutely fine. You try to keep it as proper as possible, because if you get too crazy with your words, no one's going to know what you wrote. The point of cursive is to be expressive. Have some leeway when you write your letters, but also there's a certain shape for that each letter should be that's, you ought to stick somewhat close to, so that when someone reads cursive, reads your handwriting, they can read what you wrote. Think about it a little bit. W's are fun because you can have like a really big first one, a little bit smaller second one, narrower first one, bigger second one. You can maybe come really high up, over, barely high at all, over, but people, this is all pretty much recognizable as a W. Bear that in mind. So there's not much more I'm going to be talking about in tonight's lesson. I hope this kind of showed you how to write a sentence. And to finish this lesson off, I will rewrite that again so that you can see what all went on there. So let's turn our paper over. I'm going to write it twice. And what I'm going to do, I am going to write it in 2-row options here. Like so. And then I'm going to do one where I just write the whole thing in 1 row. So please sit tight, watch how it's done, and I hope you can pick up something from this. So, synthetic wheel provides quick and easy electric sharpening. Here we go. Screwed up. That happens. For the sake of the lesson will not just restart, we'll just ignore this. Now, before I do the second version where I write smaller, let's cover two things that I did just to prove a point from earlier. One thing to prove a point from earlier, one thing that I didn't cover before because it never came up. One, I wrote my A like an O. You see how that could mess up how someone reads your word? That looks like sharpening. What is sharpening? Now, those of you with, most everybody out there's got common sense, or you can figure out that probably says sharpening. But you can see where doing this versus that makes two different letters altogether, depending on how you follow up. Because AR should look like that. OR should look like that. Keep that in mind when you're writing. Now, I made a mistake here. I started doing an M instead of a W. Now, some letters you can catch that and fix that to where it doesn't look that noticeable of a mistake and just write over what you wrote there. But doing an M, there's no way I could have really done a W without it looking really weird. So, you've got to live with your mistakes here sometimes. Try to practice in pencil so that you can just erase that off the paper and go again. I do recommend anything but a ballpoint pen. Ballpoint pens will dry out on you and it becomes annoying. So, those are two things that can happen when you're writing cursive. You can make a mistake that is unfixable, period. It's a blot on the paper. Two, you don't do a letter properly, and that can mess up a word. Now, thankfully, being sharpening, I think you can get the idea that that's sharpening. But there's going to be words where it's just like, what was this supposed to be? You're going to be in that middle ground. You don't know what it is. And to try to avoid mishaps and misunderstanding, miscommunication, do your best to write the letter as properly as possible. Now, it can be clean, like that's a very clean R. It can be a sloppy R, but that's still fairly noticeable. Some letters are fairly noticeable of what is what. But there's a difference between clean and sloppy versus correct letter, incorrect letter. Bear that in mind. So now I will rewrite the sentence using just one line. And for that, I am going to go a little bit smaller on the pen. This is more of a marker than a pen. We'll go back to a finer tip marker here. And I will resume, and now. And there we go. So now you can kind of see how the two would look. You know, one where you're cheating a little bit, you get more swoopies. And I would suggest this for practice. But once you start getting better at cursive, which I hope you do, and very soon and easy, because it's not that hard of a thing to do. But I do hope that you can start writing within college rule note paper within the lines and be able to tell uppercase from lowercase. But that is how to connect letters. I know I didn't clear it up that well, but to just reiterate the shapes, you know, most letters you come up at the end, and you can usually follow up with that up swoop to complete the next letter. And you try to finish all the lowercase letters, with the exception of a few, coming off at the bottom. Letters like O, you come off the top. Letters like W, you come off the top. And you try to work with that top side swoop to connect your next letter. I hope that helps. I hope you found this somewhat useful for learning cursive on your own. I do suggest that you go and check other YouTube channels. I don't know which ones there are. I have not looked around. But I do hope that you check out some other channels. Maybe they say something that I don't. Maybe they say it in a way that, excuse me, makes it more clear to you on how to do stuff. But I do hope that this helped you get started, at least, with learning how to do cursive. So, thank you all for coming in and watching today's video. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope you found it informational. I hope it helps you improve your handwriting a little bit throughout your life. Newspaper falling apart here. So, until the next video, farewell, carry well, and bye-bye.